Most businesses don't crash overnight. They bleed out slowly. And most of the time, the owners are too soft, too slow, or too blind to even realize what's going on. If you think that just working harder in your business will save you, you've got it all wrong. So today I'm going to explain the tactics that will help you avoid mistakes before they even happen in your business. Welcome back, everyone, to a Mindset Medicine podcast. I am your host, Catherine Lucadu, serial entrepreneur, past professor. I love everything business. Most people have hobbies, they're jogging or they're gardening. I actually read and research about business and tactics and how people can perform better. I play with AI as a hobby. So today I'm going to give you a real playbook on how to avoid most of these costly mistakes that happen in an entrepreneur's business before they actually happen. And this has been through years and years of experience and also coaching other entrepreneurs and understanding that there are key points that you need to be looking for. There are ways to be proactive from the moment you open your eyes in the morning. So what I want to do is I really just want to jump right in. I've got some notes here and I'm going to walk you through. This is going to be really productive for you. So if you have a notepad or you want to take notes on your phone, this will help give you tactics so that you don't get to the point where you are bleeding out money. You are getting phone calls where someone wants to sue you because something happened. We are going to avoid all of that because as an entrepreneur, you got into this business because you had a passion. You wanted to help people. You wanted to make an impact. But unfortunately, mistakes happen. And they don't all have to turn out badly. They don't all have to cost you a lot of money. They don't all have to cost you a lawsuit. People love to sue these days. So let's jump right in. Why businesses really end up dying, why they end up closing, why they end up becoming very unprofitable. It doesn't happen overnight. And so when you see a small business in your area, wherever you live, and even large conglomerate businesses, I know here in Canada, we had one of the largest department stores called the Hudson Bay. They are now in the process of closing down everything. This is a company that has been in Canada for 132 years operating, but a series of bad judgments, mistakes, decisions, selling out, scaling too high. All of these things matter when you're running a business. So this doesn't happen overnight. It is always a series of small steps in the wrong direction. So what I want you to do is I'm going to help you course correct today, and we're going to get you in the right direction. And if you haven't used some of these tactics and steps that I'm going to give you today, now is the perfect time to start implementing them into your business and the way that you run everything. So a lot of entrepreneurs will say, it's the economy, it's the politics, it's an external disaster, it was the pandemic, so many different excuses because fear breeds excuses. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to always be thinking about growth because growth creates decisions, not excuses. Another point that we're going to talk about today are conversations that are being avoided, hard conversations. Sometimes you have to have a hard conversation with yourself, with a partner about the finances, about how money is being allocated. Is money being saved? The amount of expenses that you've got in your business, do they all need to be there? Or have you ever gone line by line through your credit card statement? I mean, you sat down and one by one, you went through every small expense that you are paying out. This app and this website and this small little thing, whatever it is, unless you go line by line in your credit card statement, you're never going to know exactly where your money is going. So that's something else that we're going to talk about is these kinds of conversations. Are you having them? And then conversations with clients, with customers, the hard ones, the difficult ones that will avoid problems later on. We're going to get into that. And the signals that you miss as a business owner, as a human being. What are the signals that you've been missing that have led to the mistakes that have been happening? There is something called the lack of attention to detail as well. That will also cause you problems. So I know all of this sounds vague, but I'm going to dive right into it right now. So I'm going to give you a few real world examples. My husband is a home inspector, a master home inspector, owns an inspection company with a partner. And here is what they have noticed over the years. When they go into an inspection, those of you who have owned a home, have purchased a home in the past, understand the necessity of a home inspector because you can't always understand the workings, the functionality of a home. So you have the home inspector come in, and from what they can see, from what they can investigate, they let you know where are the deficiencies, how many are there. Now, most of you probably won't have gone deep into their home inspection business, what happens behind the scenes. So here's what I want to let you know, because I know what happens behind the scenes. You may not know this, but thousands of photos are taken during a home inspection. Why? Even though you may only need 40 photos for the actual home inspection report, thousands of photos are taken of every little thing, every part of the mechanic, parts of ceilings, little cracks, things like that. Why do they do it? Because 3 months down the road, 8 months down the road, 5 years down the road, someone has something happen in their home. And more often than not, the first 2 people that they're going to go back to when they find a deficiency in their home that they didn't anticipate, they're going to go to the realtor and they're going to go to the home inspector. Always. These are the first 2 people who get the phone call. So why does that home inspector have all these photos? Because they can now go through and show on this day, at this time, this was how that looked. This was the functionality of the item that you're complaining about. If they don't take all those photos, it becomes a he said, she said, right? They're going to say that it was caused 5 years ago and you missed it. The home inspector is going to say, well, I don't miss things because we have a process in how we move around the property, what we look at, how we look at it. But if it's just one word against another, and then that goes to court, more often than not, a judge will side on the side of the client. It's typically what happens. So by thinking ahead, thinking strategically, doing more work than required, meaning taking more photos, that is what actually will save the home inspector the mistakes that will cost a lot of money when it comes down to something going wrong in a home. Because as we know, the upkeep of a home is very expensive, and even small things can add up to cost a lot of money for replacement value, just the labor to get things done. So that's one example. Let's go into the real estate industry. As I have been a broker in real estate almost 17 years now, and I owned a real estate brokerage, an independent company with 2 offices, and I owned that for over 5 years. Here's what I learned about becoming very strategic, thinking 4, 5, 6 steps ahead of things that could happen. When a buyer comes and brings an offer to a property, having an offer is great on paper, but that's all it is. It's just numbers and words on a piece of paper. As a broker, thinking strategically, I have to calculate the stability of that buyer and the chances that they're actually going to close successfully at the end of 3 months or whatever that closing period is. The shorter, the better, because if it is a long period of time, so many things can happen in the economy, with their jobs, with their relationships. I mean, it's endless, the number of potential possibilities of that property not closing. So when we're looking at that piece of paper, which is an offer, before it is signed, I have to figure out how stable is this buyer without me knowing who they are because I am representing the seller. So I then have to ask questions. What are their jobs? Their deposit. Make sure that the deposit is large enough to cover any problems that would arise if they decide to walk away. What are their plans? Do they have a home to sell? Right? It's asking the questions ahead of time so that we don't get to the point where we are 1 week before closing, 2 days before closing, and we get that phone call from the lawyer saying, oh, we have a problem. So-and-so buyer says that they're not going to close in 2 days. They don't have the money. So when I am looking at an offer on a piece of paper of any kind, and I'm talking about an offer in any of my businesses that I've owned, I always understand that right now, these are numbers and words on a piece of paper. There isn't much validity to them until I start asking questions to find out whether this, in fact, is a deal that will successfully close. To me, that's really where this all leads to. Will this successfully close? And so I have to strategically think, whatever it's 1 month ahead, 2 months ahead, and I'm working down the line of where's the economy right now? Are there any blows to the economy that we can expect? So let me give you an example. In today's real world, there are tariffs, correct, that are going on between the US and Canada and many other countries. If I know that the buyer coming in has a job in the auto industry, and we know that in 2 weeks, in 1 month from now, there will be a 25% tariff on the auto industry, and therefore 50% of the employees may be laid off, this is something that I have to take into account. But if we just live in the present and we're just looking at what we see in front of us, and we're not thinking those few steps ahead, this is where the mistakes happen. Here's a third point, and this is when we were talking about clients and discussions and having hard conversations. No matter what type of business you run, you will typically run into some kind of problem with a client or a customer who is using your services. In my experience of 30 years, whether it has been me teaching, whether it was me owning the children's play area, I also owned an English language institute where we taught English as a second language. I've owned the real estate company. I've owned a coaching company. As I keep going, it doesn't matter what industry I've been in. I was the first person to pick up the phone to discuss an issue. Anything I saw arising, I picked up the phone first. Why? Because if you wait and you allow the client to be the proactive one, number one, you're going to be taken off guard. You will not be prepared for the conversation. Number two, you will be blindsided because it may be something that you weren't even anticipating. When you instigate, when you begin the conversation, You are the one who has the power in that conversation. The person who begins the set of talks is the person who leads the talks because you have the set of talking points. As a question comes up that you aren't prepared for, that is where you say, that's a really interesting point, and I'd like to come back to that, giving yourself a little bit of time to think about it. So if you're not setting expectations before the problems happen, you are basically preparing to lose control when those problems do happen. The last thing we want is for you to lose control of your own business. So now we're going to go into various tactics and steps that you can take to protect yourself. Number one, second order thinking. You may have heard the term first order thinking. First order thinking is easy. There's a problem and you try and solve it. First order thinking, right? It's what is in front of you, it is visible, and you need to work on it. Second order thinking is basically about survival. You are trying to predict the second, third, and fourth consequence of what could happen. Now, someone might say, well, Catherine, that's really pessimistic. Why am I going to start thinking about everything that could go wrong rather than thinking about what could go right? Yes, you're true. Being optimistic is fabulous. It's great. I'm a very optimistic person. However, in order to make sure that you don't get blindsided by mistakes, by issues that can happen, you need to think second order thinking. What could be the consequence? So if I did this, right? Where would this lead? It could lead this way or it could lead this way. And if it went this way, what could then happen from there? Well, it could go this way or it could go this way. What this does is it starts preparing you for what's next. And here's the order of the thinking. What happens next if I do this? What happens because of that? And what cost will it create 6 or 12 months from now? Now, you may push back and you'd say, well, how could I possibly predict 6 or 12 months from now? Well, you can, because you are imagining scenarios. When you've been in business, you pretty much understand the trajectory of how things unravel. I know after 17 years in the real estate industry, I know exactly how things unravel. I know exactly what happens when I get that one phone call and I can hear the emotional reactiveness in a person's voice. So that is my cue to now start becoming very strategic. And I need to think, if this conversation doesn't go well, what is the possibility that this will turn into? And then we go to the next order of consequences. And if that were to happen, what would be the next order of consequences? The problem is that so many entrepreneurs don't take the time to pause and think through a situation. What I've noticed is so many people react, right? They want to move ahead. Let's get this done. Let's close up the deal. Let's get the commission. Let's, sell the product, move ahead. But if you don't think through certain scenarios, this wonderful end result that you're hoping for, that big commission check you're waiting for, it won't happen because of the way you didn't think through the situation from the beginning. So, as humans, we crave quick wins. Fast money. How can I make money now? How can I fast forward? How can I speed up this process? How can I make the client want to buy more often? The entrepreneurs who survive by resisting this quick bait, and they're thinking 3 steps ahead. So rather than pushing forward, hold back, pause, think it through, go your 3 moves ahead like you're playing chess. When you start doing that, you'll start to notice that the percentage of success actually goes up. I have not had an issue with an offer, a client, or a situation in years when I started doing this. Even in my coaching business, if I see that there's a problem starting to unravel, I am the first person to address it. Because that way I can keep control of the situation. The person who has control has the power, and they also control the narrative, how things will unravel. Tactic number 2, or step number 2. This is called red teaming. And you're basically going to attack your own plan before reality does. So you are going to put on the lens of someone who is, as we know, it's called, let's play the devil's advocate, meaning the complete opposite perspective of what you're about to do. And again, this is not pessimism. This is being strategic so mistakes don't happen, right? So you could say you are optimistically strategic by casting a negative lens on whatever it is that you plan on doing to see if you can poke holes, look for the mistakes before they happen. So, question number 1 that you want to ask yourself. So if you are starting a new business, if you are already running a business, or if you have been in business for 20 years, even better, because it's probably time to poke holes in your business if you've owned it for many, many years. Remember, the growth trajectory happens when we start questioning and making decisions. We remain paralyzed and in one place when we think what we're doing is correct, when we think that the way we're thinking is the correct way that we're doing it. So, number 1, where is my idea? Where is my offer? Where is my plan vulnerable? Number 2, what assumptions am I making blindly? This is really important. So often, we assume that because this person has money and can pay for our service, pay for our product, everything will be fine. However, typically the people who pay the most money, they will value your service, but they will be looking for the holes in it. Something else is when we talk about your service or your business being vulnerable, what haven't you thought about? Like, really walk yourself through this. Have you thought about your insurance? Have you thought about what if someone were to sue me and my business? What would happen? What about when you're running a business and you get sick? What happens next? Have you created a business? And I've asked a lot of coaching clients this question, especially leaders. If you are leading a company, a team, a group of people, and God forbid something were to happen, could anyone else sit in your chair and continue running the business just as you've been because you have systems and processes already set up? Is that possible? That's really the key indicator as to whether you have created a business that could function without you there. So, have you made an assumption that you will just always be okay? Nothing will ever happen to you. Have you made the assumption that because you take care of yourself, that there's no possibility that anything else could happen in your life that you may have to take care of someone else, be away from your business again? It's really important to look at every detail prior to either creating the business, or if you're already in the business, it's really important that you take time every month even to go through what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of your business right now, where are the opportunities, and where are the threats? Because every month, something new will occur. How do I know this? I was having a conversation with a client last night, and I was giving them the 30-day update of what's been going on. And I said, factor number 1, we didn't anticipate this. Factor number 2, we didn't anticipate this. Factor number 3, we didn't anticipate the elections paralyzing the way that people have been purchasing. So it's really important that you don't go around blindly. Now, I knew 30 days ago that these were all possibilities, but it's important that you address them. And I was the one who instigated the conversation yesterday because I wanted to address the situation before they came asking me what's going on. Here's a really fascinating question to ask your business, meaning yourself. If I wanted this business to fail, what would I do and how would I do it? How fascinating is that? If I wanted my business to fail, how would I do it and what would I do? If you can answer those questions about your business, you can now strategically overcome how that would happen so that your business doesn't fail. This is how futurist strategic thinking works. Remember, we're trying to be a few steps ahead. It is not pessimism, it's optimistic strategy. So, your biggest threat right now in your business is not your competition. It's not the economy. It's not the politics. It is your own blind spots and lack of asking yourself some really hard questions that will make you think about your next 4 to 5 steps ahead. So red teaming, remember, the red team is the team who is attacking you. You are that other team that needs to do this to your business. And red teaming will force you to see any mistakes happen before they destroy your business. So I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask you, are you the kind of entrepreneur who wants to stay sharp? Do you want to learn this way of getting your mind to start forward pacing what could be happening so that when you get there, you don't have those issues? I've just opened a new account as a little side note here on Substack, which I'm really excited about because I haven't done many new things. Well, I'm pretty much always doing new things, but for me, I haven't been on a new platform in many years. So I'm really excited to be diving into Substack. If you want to find me there, I do hope you will. Search Bold and Restless. That is my new page. You can search up my name, Catherine Lucadu, but Bold and Restless is the name of my Substack page, and it's where I'm going to be doing, I'll be sharing newsletters. I actually share content every day as a little note, which is almost like a Twitter X little feed. I am sharing videos there. And for those who are subscribing to the channel, I will be doing workshops with you right there live on business and mindset and all AI and all kinds of fun things. So every week I'm going to be sharing moves that your business needs as we keep moving forward, because as we move into the future, things are not going to become easier. You just have to become more tactical about what you're doing. And it's fun as long as you've got that guidance behind you. So I will put my link to my Substack channel in the notes, but you can always just go over to Substack, search up Bold and Restless, Catherine Lucadu, and I hope to see you there. So let's move on to tactic number 3. We're going to call this, you've all heard of a post-mortem, yes? Where when someone has passed away, if we feel as though that there has been something suspicious or we're not really understanding why this person would have died, we do a post-mortem. So here's what I want to do. I want you to start thinking about pre-mortem thinking for your business. So what this is going to look like for you. Sorry, I have to keep drinking. Very dry. I want you to imagine that it's 6 months from now and your project that you're working on or your business has failed. Why? Why did it fail? Look at your business today. Poke holes in it. This is your pre-mortem so that you never actually get to the post-mortem. Why did your business die? So, number 1, what blind spots of yours caused the collapse? Where did you not anticipate something going wrong? There's got to be a corner of your business. There's got to be one part where you thought, oh my gosh, I never thought that could happen. I want to know what that is. So that's where I want you to start thinking. I want you, question number 2, what mistakes am I assuming won't happen? That's a really good one. What mistakes am I assuming won't happen in my business? Could it be a mistake that you make? Could it be a mistake that your employees make? Or in my circumstance, it was a mistake that an accountant has made that has now cost me a lot of money. So the mistake is not always yours to make. It could be someone else. But where could it happen? Which part of your business? And number 3, what didn't I prepare for? Look at your business right now, think about it for a moment, and ask yourself, what part of my business haven't I prepared for? And if this is something that you're having trouble thinking about on your own, and you're not quite ready to hire a consultant or an advisor like myself, go on to ChatGPT. Talk about your business, explain what it is that you do, and ask ChatGPT, what haven't I prepared for? Ask me questions. Poke holes in my business. What you're going to notice is there are going to be some shocking discoveries that luckily you have found now. And you don't have to get to the point where you're paying for a mistake, or worse, you are doing a post-mortem on your business. So I love optimism. I am an optimistic person. I wouldn't be on this earth today after all of my heart surgery, stroke, heart attacks, skin cancer, paralysis from a vaccine. I've been through it all. So you are listening to or looking at one of the most optimistic people you have ever met. However, you don't have to be stupidly optimistic. You can be strategically optimistic. And that is what I am. Because pre-mortem thinking in a business, oh, it feels really good. because basically you are making your business future-proof, bulletproof. Nothing will get by you because you've already thought about it. Tactic number 4. Great entrepreneurs do not bet on one version of the future of your business. You know that there could be various scenarios on how it could turn out. Think back in your lifetime right now. How many things did not go exactly as planned? I'm pretty sure a lot of it, right? It took a turn, and as you know, there's this photo on, well, basically anywhere on the internet, and they show success, right? So success, you've got point A, point B, and there's this straight line. Oh my gosh. We all know very well that success is not a straight line from A to B. It goes up and down and around, and then there's something that happens, and then it comes back up again, like the stock market, right? It goes down, and then it comes up, and it stays up for a little while, and then it comes crashing down again. So never bet on one future for your business or for the service or for the product that you're offering, because it may turn out differently. So what I'd like you to do is to prepare for multiple versions of your future. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about the film industry. And, AI has really shifted the film industry in how films are being created. There are a lot of production companies which are shutting down because they're unable and don't want to go to the AI era of filmmaking. However, the ones that are, what they're doing is they're now doing the movie yourself. So what does that mean? It means that you can create the ending that you want in the film. So that's what we're doing here. We are going to create different endings to your business, different futures. I don't want to call it an ending. We're going to call it a future. So what are the different possible scenarios of the direction that your business could go? Could someone come in and want to purchase it from you? Could you take on a partner? Could you scale it? Could you franchise it? Could you add more people and scale globally? Right? The possibilities are endless. But I want you to imagine what those possibilities are for yourself. So now here are some key questions as you're thinking about these multiple scenarios of the future of your business. What if the economy tanks? I want you to think about 2020, right? The pandemic. Things shut down. What happens in that scenario? What if people stop purchasing? And as I just mentioned, when we have an election here in Canada, people freeze, like literally freeze for about 2 weeks before the election and then a few days afterward, because they're really trying to what just happened? I know in the US, this happens as well. And most likely, most countries around the world, whenever an election is happening, people are so engrossed in what's going on that it's very hard for them to think about other things until everything is settled, because they're not sure what kind of taxes are going to be implemented. Are there new rules and regulations that are going to be inputted? Number 3 is, what if my best customer disappears? If your best customer who purchased the most from your company disappeared, stopped buying from you, what would happen to your company? And I'm going to go a little bit further. What if your best salespeople, employees, left the company? They walk out and they're taking, let's say, $30 million in sales with them. What would happen to your company? These are scenarios that I want you to think about, because when you do, you are creating an armor. Like, physically imagine this, creating an iron wall around your business that nothing can affect it, because you have strategically thought about all of these things. Hope is not a strategy. Let's just put it out there. Hoping your business does well this year, next year, in 2030 is not a strategy. But having options and having the foresight to know what could happen, that is your power. So we're going on to the last tactic, which is micro speed, macro patience. Micro speed, macro patience. Having urgency daily. So what does this mean? It means you need to act fast. You need to fix fast. You need to call fast, and you need to sell fast. I'm going to break this down for you. When a problem occurs, act quickly. Do not step back, wait a week, 2 weeks, a month. If the problem happens, you need to act quickly and start going into reparation mode. So how do I repair this? How am I going to fix this? When you're making your decisions, I want you to think about those strategies we just talked about. What are the second order consequences in how I go about fixing this? Because there are differences between a quick fix and a proper fix. A quick fix is reactionary. You're emotional. Oh my gosh, let's just do this. But a proper fix of a problem means that you've stopped for a moment and you've started thinking, okay, if I fix it this way, then this is the next consequence. And as a result of that, then that is the next consequence. Call fast, meaning problem happens. You need to call clients, or you need to call an accountant, you need to call a bookkeeper, you need to call your partner, but call quickly. Don't let things ruminate. The longer it takes you to inform people of things, that is how rumors happen. It is how stories get distorted. And remember, you always want to be in charge of the narrative. The person who holds the power also holds the narrative. Long-term patience. So that's what we are talking about when we talk about macro patience. Long-term patience. Trust, credibility, and momentum are always growing under the surface of your business. The way that our business grows is through people trusting you, trusting in your service. The way that you grow employees is that they trust in your ability, they trust in your credibility, they trust your integrity. So it's important that even when we talk about acting fast, if you have an employee in your company and they are like a poison and they are infecting everyone else around them, but you're keeping them on because they're good at what they do, because they bring in a lot of sales, because it would be a pain in the butt to let them go and you'd have to go and look for someone else. Those are not reasons to keep someone who could be a liability to your company, who is poisoning the culture of your company, or is changing the rules within your company because they're deciding that that's what they want to do. You need to remove these people immediately so that you can keep moving forward on your growth trajectory. Poison will stop your growth. It's just how it is. So momentum in a business is really important, but we can't keep momentum if the decisions that we're making aren't correct, because they will stop your growth every time a mistake happens. And not only that, but psychologically, as an entrepreneur, it is hard when a mistake happens, when you get that letter that someone wants to sue you, when someone isn't paying their bill. All of these things psychologically affect you. Every time you're psychologically affected, you will be emotionally affected. Every time you're emotionally affected, you will slow down your growth because you get distracted. And that's the last thing you want to be when running a business. Distractions will kill a business. Stay focused by keeping in power. You keep in power by making the right decision. You make the right decisions. Pardon me. You make the right decisions by being strategic and your second order thinking. What are the consequences of every decision that I'm making right now? You know, Amazon, we talk about overnight successes and we say, oh my gosh, look at that company. But if you go back and you look at Jeff Bezos working in a room with a table as his desk, and there were about 10 other people working in that room, and they're working in this old derelict building, which is where they all started. Or Bill Gates, and I know you've heard this before, or Steve Jobs, I should say, and they're working in a garage. Or Mark Zuckerberg, and he was working in the dorm room of his university. All of these businesses took 20 plus years to become what they are today. However, what these people all have in common is they were able to move aggressively daily, but they were patient. They made the right decisions, thinking about consequences, and then they got their big wins. That is how we stay in business for years and years and years. The longevity of a business is based upon the decisions, the consequences, and how you react to all of it as the business owner. Businesses that survive aren't the ones who are hustling the hardest. They're not the ones that are grinding. You hear these words all the time. I hate them, honestly, because hustle and grind, you know what that means to me? That means a lot of stress. That means a lot of overwhelm. And it also means that if you're hustling and grinding, you are not thinking about consequences and decisions. You're just going like a hamster on a wheel. When you are hustling and grinding, you are not noticing the danger that is 6 moves ahead of you. And that's the problem with a lot of businesses. They're here. They're now, which is great to be present. But you've got to be strategically optimistic and know what those next 3, 4, 5 steps are ahead, the consequences of every decision that you make. And once you start thinking like this, one after another, it's going to become second nature to you. Most people are playing checkers. They see the, what do you call it? The checker, the little checker thing on the board. They see it, they jump over it, right? Simple. I want you to start playing chess, where chess is a game of strategy. No one is rushing to play a game of chess. They're thinking. And what they're doing is they are thinking of the second order consequences. If I make this move, where will he go? And then if he goes there, where will I go next? Right? Thinking ahead. Always being a few moves ahead will keep your business so healthy. It will add longevity to your business. It will help you stay more stress-free. It will provide you less overwhelm. I know because I've been doing it for 30 years. Whew. Well, that was an episode, wasn't it? I hope that these tactics, although you may have known, although you may do a lot of it, possibly hearing it again will really help the way that you're hoping that your business moves forward. Thinking like a next generation entrepreneur is really important right now. So Find me on Substack, on Bold and Restless. Find me on social media channels. If you like what you hear and you would like to have this with me, one-on-one in coaching, I'm going to put a link below to have a discovery call with me, because basically this is how it's going to go. I'm going to help you start thinking like that future strategic entrepreneur, so that you don't make the mistakes that you are making, you have made, or that you could potentially make down the road. If you know of anyone who needs some of this information that we've discussed today, share this episode with them. Download this episode. And if you see it in your heart to leave me a review, that helps more people see this show. Thank you so much for tuning into Mindset Medicine this week with me. And next week, we're going to keep going. I'm going to keep adding more value so that you can really enjoy this business that you've created, because it started out of a passion that you had for it. So let's keep it going. Bye for now.